second attempt. Good afternoon and welcome back to Politico's AI and Tech Summit. For those of you joining us online and for those in the audience, you've got a special treat. You will be able to ask some questions in person at the end. We'll have 10 minutes, so stay put. I'm Antoaneta Roussi and I'm the Cyber and Intelligence Reporter for Politico. And today we will be discussing the EU cybersecurity regulatory wave with our esteemed panelists. Allow me to introduce, we've got online Juhan Lepassaar. Hi Juhan, thanks for joining us. He's the Executive Director of the EU's cybersecurity agency ENISA. To my right, Angelika Niebler, an MEP for the European People's Party from Germany, and Shadow Rapporteur of the Cyber Solidarity Act. Tomas Okmanas, co-founder and co-chief executive officer of Nord Security. And last but not least, Bart, Groothuis, an MEP for the Renew Group from the Netherlands and rapporteur of the NIS2 Directive. So we're gathered at a pivotal moment, one where cybersecurity, regulation, and geopolitics are no longer separate stories, but interwoven and shaping our collective future. Around the world, governments are wrestling for control over the digital domain. In the US, we're watching a revival of America First thinking. And while in China, the state's deep entanglement with its tech giants continues to raise red flags. And here stands Europe, trying to define its own center of gravity. With the NIS2 Directive and the Cyber Resilience Act, the EU isn't just responding to cyber threats, it's laying claim to a digital future that is both secure and values-driven. These measures are about building digital trust for citizens and the technology shaping our world. So the question is, can Europe harden its digital infrastructure against rising threats without choking the innovation it so desperately needs to compete globally? We'll find out from our panelists. So, Bart, if I can start with you. You once called the NIS2 Directive a quantum leap for European cybersecurity.
Did I? All right, yeah.
But in a world where regulatory divergence is growing, can NIS2 ensure that Europe is not just protected, but competitive?
A good question. Let's first start by answering that question by a third party who had a look at NIS2. It's called Moody's. You know Moody's from the credit rating agencies. They give AAA ratings to banks and insurances. They had a look at NIS2. And per saldo, and in the bottom they said, it's credit positive for doing business in Europe. Why? Because business continuity, because of resilience against not just nation-state attacks or ransomware attacks from criminals, but it's also the intertwinement between those. I mean, it's become an instrument for Russian foreign policy, more and more from Chinese foreign policy, but especially Russian foreign policy, to weaken the economic fabric and structure in our society. There's no doubt that we should do something about building resilience in Europe. Everyone agrees. If you look at specific burdens on top of for businesses, I agree. There's many. And I think a CEO would be really pissed off if you see, I'm personally liable. But let me just blame that on the great Thierry Breton, because he said when I was, so here's me doing a Thierry Breton imitation. When I was CEO of Atos, I would have done not so much about cybersecurity because it was a cost. When I was personally liable, I would definitely do something. So we decided to put it in. Why? Because we've been discussing 15 years. It should be Chefsache, good German word. Chefsache. And it's not become Chefsache until NIS2. I understand a CEO saying, am I personally liable for my cybersecurity? Yes, you are. And you should be, because we're done talking. This is the only thing. It's a waterbed effect. Last sentence. It's a waterbed effect. If the Americans are doing more on cybersecurity, hackers will come to Europe. So it needs to be done, and they need to tackle the regulatory burden. Can we do something about it? Sure. We have the omnibus packages. We'll have a look at it. But am I positive, just like Moody's? Yes.
Juhan, I'm going to jump to you because ENISA obviously plays quite a role in operationalizing these laws. From your perspective, how is NIS2 being implemented across member states? Because just last week, the Commission sort of set a deadline of 2 months to 19 European countries for failing to transpose the law into national law. So clearly there's some struggle there.
Thanks. I hope you can all hear me, first of all. Indeed, there is only 8 countries who have now transposed the NIS directive, but we hope that the 19 are very close to concluding the process by the end of the year. But I would like to start where it really matters, which is how do the entities respond to the NIS2? And I would like to confirm what the Right Honourable Member Bart Groothuis already said, that NIS2 is net positive, and we see that also in the ground that these entities who are under the scope of the NIS2, they now invest much more into cybersecurity. So just by comparison, the amount of budgets that these entities, our critical service providers, now invest into cybersecurity has doubled from 2022 to 2024. So the NIS2 has had a positive effect in terms of companies, entities, service providers taking cybersecurity much more seriously. We've tried to help them as much as possible also from ENISA side, helping the member states to put in place technical guidelines, how to deal with incident reporting or how to deal with security measures. So I think this is a very, very positive aspect. The other is that it has created much more capable Europe, Europe which is much more capable of also sharing the burden and the load. For example, in one of the key areas of cybersecurity, which is vulnerability management, which has been for a long time upheld by our American partners. And indeed, though I think CISA and MITRE and NIST have done a tremendously good job, I think it's now also time for Europe to step up their game and also share a bit of the burden. There is a huge backlog of vulnerabilities which have not been dealt with, which companies find very difficult to manage because there is a lack of guidance on them. And I think we Europeans can put our act together and actually step into this game and help and share this, let's say, global value of maintaining a framework how to manage vulnerabilities in the future. And these regulatory steps that Europe has taken have given us the space to actually act in this, not only NIS2, but also, of course, the CRA. So today, by the way, is the day when ENISA will launch the beta version of the European Vulnerability Database that will help companies to deal with vulnerabilities. In just 14 months, we will put in place the single reporting platform under the CRA, the Cyber Resilience Act, so that also vendors can report actively exploited vulnerabilities. And that helps member states to deal and address the threats in cyberspace in a much more agile and quicker manner.
Can you just, in one sentence, explain what the vulnerability database is for those who don't know?
So what the European Vulnerability Database does, it integrates data about vulnerabilities, data provided by ICT vendors, disclosing vulnerability information via advisories and relevant information, just as like CISA does it via known exploited vulnerability catalog. So we do that in Europe as well. So it's a public database that everybody can access to and understand if their critical assets needs an update, if they need to address loopholes which exist, and helps them to do that.
Great, thank you. Tomas, so Bart mentioned CEOs, and since you're the only one on stage, I'll turn to you. You lead a major cybersecurity firm, a European one, or global, is it? But you're European. So from your vantage point, how are these EU rules helping you do your job, or are they stifling you to do your job?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm very honored and excited. It's the first time for me in Brussels. So never been here. Very good weather you always have here. I see. So just about us, we've started this company with my co-founder more than 10 years ago, out of Lithuania, and now we're around 4,500 people, and we have multiple products in our portfolio. We have, I'd say now, 3 unicorns already, and 1 cooking. And the biggest kind of a Nord Security, which is because of cybersecurity, so I'm with Nord Security's hat today, here, and AI with Nexos.ai. So Nord Security is around 2,500 people, and all of us are based in Europe. So we're based in Lithuania, Poland, Germany, and Amsterdam, the Netherlands. I'd say 80% of our staff is in Vilnius in Lithuania. And throughout the years, I've been talking to investors from Silicon Valley, venture capital guys, others, and they all, we didn't take the investment, we bootstrapped the business. But when I was talking with them, they all told me, you need to move to the United States. I didn't. And then the other part was said that you need to hire a CFO either from New York or Silicon Valley.
Why?
Because that's where the value is going to be created, and this is where the talent is.
Right.
And what we did, all of my management team are Europeans, Lithuanian, and the CFO is Lithuanian guy as well. Policy here too, so everything is in Europe. 50% of our revenue comes from the United States and other parts. So basically we're importing to Europe. And to be honest, things are, could be better, but they're not bad. But in reality, we see, and especially with AI now, I'm a bit worried that we're still lagging a bit behind.
Right.
Now, if there's a big, there's a good example how US, OpenAI with President Trump announces a deal that they've got from Japan and helps to get the investments done in the United States. Unfortunately, I don't see this happening in Europe at the moment, right? We really need to have more collaboration between the public and private sector. I think we need to have a labor laws a bit more friendlier for businesses. When I'm saying that in Germany, if I wanna, we started Nexos.ai, which is AI cybersecurity company, AI platform. And that we can get to.
Threat intelligence, or?
It's so Nexos.ai is now. We basically designed Nexos.ai because we saw that AI adoption is not accelerating enough. What I mean by that everyone tests AI through a ChatGPT.com interface, but in reality, for the big companies, traditional industries, oil and gas, they're not entering it into production. So everyone is testing in the labs, or people are using it, and all the data that you're putting into ChatGPT.com goes directly to LLMs that are based not in Europe.
Right.
And they're training on that data. And they have everything you upload there, and they might, train on that data and answer the questions to others. So Nexos.ai kind of stops that happening and stays here in Europe. So this is where we started focusing, and we just started this company 6 months ago, and it's seen a very, very fast growth that we're very excited of. But going back now to the labor laws. Now for Nexos.ai, I need to hire 200 people in a year. In Germany, for me to hire someone, they will join me in probably 4 to 5 months because they need a leave, and then if I immediately after a month or 2, I understand, or 3, that he's not talented enough, and I need to fire that person, I will definitely gonna go to court and try to settle in another 6 months. That's what we're doing now. Because, but in the United States, the next day he will be out, right? So I think we're trying to find ways how to do it here, and but I'd say there's still room for improvement. But and everyone's listening. I'm not saying nothing is being done. Like GDPR, cookie consent. Guys, with all the respect, everyone just clicks allow, and no one, thinks it really works. You don't?
I say necessary only. So what I'm hearing is you want to live like a European but work like an American.
Exactly, and that's how we're going to win.
Okay.
But also, we need to import Americans to Europe. They want to come, just to get them here.
Angelika, you're obviously native German. What do you make of that?
Well, I think we've done a lot of things quite good, but still I think we have to improve. We have a lot of improvement. And labor law is sometimes hindering, but on the other hand, I think workers' protection is also an issue. So we have to really carefully find the right balance, to keep you being on track, but on the other hand also to take care of our people. So that's so always question is how to find the right balance. But I'm happy to listen to you, Thomas, and to Bart, my dear colleague as well. And if you allow me, I think we can congratulate you. You are really a success story with your company, and we like to have companies like you all over Europe. So that is, I think, wonderful to listen to you and to hear that even though we have a strong regulation in all respects, you stayed here in the European Union. Your scaling up was done here in the European Union. So I think this is also something which is really wonderful to hear, and we have maybe to take on the lessons from you and to improve. And on the cybersecurity side, if you allow me just to say,
Sure.
I think Europe is doing quite a good job, I have to say. So I think we for years now, we were really working in order to try to find out what can we do. Cybersecurity is key. Bart, you mentioned it, for our citizens, for our undertakings, for our companies, for our democracy, honestly. We are heavily attacked by a lot of, states and a lot of criminals, so we have to react, I think. And we agreed on a cybersecurity strategy looking at the whole ecosystems, addressing what needs to be done in the undertakings, in the companies, so that it's a Chefsache. Cybersecurity is on top of the agenda of all undertakings. We had a look at our public services. Is everything okay, or do we have to improve? How do we better cooperate in the European Union? At the beginning, years ago, it was a mess, and I look at you, Juhan, you know it better than I do, but not in all 27 member states we had cybersecurity units established, so we had to start from the scratch to build up a lot of things to move for closer cooperation in the European Union as regards, identifying, detecting threats, how to react, how building up a sort of cybersecurity shield, all that had been done within the couple of last years, and I think that was not so bad. Whenever I have the chance to be on a panel, people are always complaining, so I have to say, really, it's not all bad. And also the good thing on the European Union is that whenever we think maybe we have exaggerated, you mentioned the AI regulation, GDPR. This is a burdensome piece of legislation, but we in Parliament, in the Council and the Commission, we have the opportunity to change it, and that's what's now happening. Actually, I'm very happy that the Commission came up with the first omnibus simplification proposal. A lot of other proposals are in the pipeline, so we will get a digital simplification omnibus. I think that's very good, and the issues which are so burdensome, which you briefly mentioned right now, I think we have to address it when we deal with the proposal from the Commission. So what I want to say, we are quite okay. I know that a lot of things have to be done, and speed is also of essence. When you say it takes you, 4, 5, 6 months, to hire somebody, this is too long, definitely. Yeah.
Angelika, you were the shadow rapporteur for the Cyber Solidarity Act, which has now obviously gone through, and there's a very interesting component to that piece of legislation, which is this idea of a cyber reserve. So, companies, which is what Thomas was talking about, like the private and the public sector working hand in hand. In this case, companies are going to respond to national incidents or cyber crises. In this geopolitical context, and with a lot of sovereignty, tech sovereignty, strategic autonomy, whatever you want to call it, should that just be for European companies like Thomas, or with European companies with a certain, or global companies with a certain quota of European staff? Or, I guess this is one for ENISA too, but I'm just curious to hear what you think about the structure of the reserve.
Well, I think it's good that we go for this reserve, and it's going to be implemented right now. It has to be built up. It's not there yet, I think so, but Juhan knows more about that than I do. Legislators, they pass legislation, and then, we do not always closely follow what's going on. We are always happy to get also from the General Director, from ENISA, for instance, an overview of where we stand right now. But in essence, I think it's very important that we go for this reserve. A lot of details had had been discussed during the process of legislation. And coming to your point, only EU companies or not, this is a very tricky question. You know, right now we are heavily dependent on digital services coming from the US and other countries. So I think we have to carefully consider that situation. Of course, we all want to become much more resilient, much more sovereign in our digital environment. So, and finding the right balance, I think, is key. And of course, I would turn it the other way around. We definitely know what we do not want. You know, that is interference from Russian, and other countries. So let's go for, you know, identifying, you know, where do we have trustworthy partners in the world, and where do we not have trustworthy partners. And I think with the ones we are closely cooperating in the world, we should go for an alliance, being also included or becoming part of the reserve, and if we do not have this trustworthy partnership, then let's let them not intervene in our business.
Juhan, what do you think?
Well, I don't have to think. I can also report what we do in terms of what are the steps of setting up the reserve. The reserve is currently, essentially, for people who don't know what the reserve is, it's ENISA is building a European cybersecurity reserve together with European cybersecurity managed service providers. So there are entities in Europe, and this is a capacity that could be tapped into by the member states when the need arises, essentially when there is a cyber incident which has a cross-border dimension or which breaches a threshold that the member state can handle itself. Because the reserve is currently financed by the Digital Europe program, that means that there is a small caveat in this program which says that all the private sector entities that ENISA needs to partner up, they need to go through the ownership control assessment, which means that they have to be controlled by European capital. The way that we are building reserve essentially dependent on European industrial capacity, on European companies, and also, of course, the reserve is a tool to develop cybersecurity skills and capacities and capabilities within Europe. There is of course, a scope also to partner up with other providers should there be, let's say, service elements that cannot be accommodated by European companies. Then there is a possibility also to partner up with the non-European providers.
Okay. Bart, I'll go to you. The Cyber Solidarity Act speaks to the EU's ambition for a unified defense posture in cyberspace in a way. And I think my question to you is, are member states really willing to pool sovereignty and resources when national security is on the line? We've seen that.
Well, the biggest proof of that pudding is in the eating of the EU cloud certification scheme. We have a problem with the Americans. We do. Let me just say, I'm from The Hague. The International Criminal Court is there. The International Criminal Court has been sanctioned by President Trump. I want President Putin to come to The Hague, if you understand what I mean. He should be convicted in The Hague, just like Milosevic, Karadzic, Mladic. They are welcome in The Hague. They should be convicted. Well, all the evidence against Putin is in a Microsoft cloud, which President Trump is currently sanctioning. So we have a problem with the American cloud as such, and we should go for a European cloud. Also, when it comes to sovereignty and national security, as you answer to your question, it's not just the ICC in The Hague. It's also critical infrastructure in the NIS2. If we pull all our resources from American cloud, we have a problem, a sovereignty problem. There's another problem too. I'm advocating for a CHIPS Act 2.0. The Americans, it's not Trump, it's Biden, its last decision in office, the AI Diffusion Act, refuses to sell Europe advanced AI chips. memory chips from NVIDIA, H200, B100. Those chips cannot be sold to Eastern Europe and to Luxembourg. Why Eastern Europe and Luxembourg? That's where we build AI gigafactories. That's where we build high-performance computing centers for entrepreneurs. The Americans do not want us to buy the most advanced AI chips in the world. Why? You name it. I think it's a clear attempt by our ally in the White House to set us 2-3 generations behind. We cannot allow. So we should have AI chips for ourselves. That can only be done. Companies will only build factories and fabs here in Europe if they have an aggregated demand from the cloud community. If we have a European cloud from governments, from critical infrastructure, from entities we know, there is a demand. There is a demand for European cloud, for European chips productions, then companies will come. The European Chips Act 2.0 is immediately connected to the EU Cloud Certification Scheme and the new AI and Cloud Act that is being developed in the Berlin.
So
this is the big question from our time.
You see eye to eye with ex-Commissioner Breton more than you admit, therefore. Because it was, the French would love to they'd love to be sitting in this room today because they were the ones pushing for, a European cloud. Look at us, Secnum Cloud, etc. And it was the Dutch that didn't want it, if I don't mistake.
I guess in Parliament it was me, Antoaneta. So I'm making a huge flip-flop, 180 degrees flip from one side to the other. I'm going all the way to the dark side. But this is because the world has changed, and we cannot allow it. If there's no AI chips, if we are in this geopolitical constitution context, we should go for a sovereign, large language models. Should they all come from the US? If you ask Grok from Elon Musk if you have a problem, or should you ask a European model? There's a different outcome there. There's different. I think we should have some sovereignty there. And it starts with the Chips Act 2.0. It starts with a sovereign aggregated demand from the end users. This is the number of chips we want the next 10 years, and legislation should push that, no doubt.
You also mentioned the Cybersecurity Act revision that's coming up.
Yeah, and the most important aspect of that is the EU Cloud Certification Scheme. And we had a huge fight with the Commission and with Juhan. My apologies, Juhan, on that. But we will be more constructive from now on, I promise.
If you allow me.
Sure.
ENISA is also challenged because the certification scheme, we are waiting for years now on that, and hopefully it comes soon. Yeah, so
they're going to get more powers for sure.
We passed legislation, but it took quite a while, to implement it. So.
Don't you think so, Juhan? We're going to be expanded.
Well, thanks for all these positive predictions regarding the mandate of ENISA. But indeed, the challenges of cybersecurity, they have only grown over time. So obviously, Europe also needs more capacity in order to deal with this. I'm quite confident that we will find a way. There is always, and I think this debate that just took place exemplifies that there are technical issues in cybersecurity, but there are also strategic political issues that need to be settled. And I think you can't ask technical people to settle strategic political issues. They need to be settled by politicians to whom we pay good money for that. And I think that's one of the lessons learned. And hopefully the Commission and the co-legislators will take that into account, how we can draw the governance of the scheme development in a way that you allow ENISA to deal with technical matters, but there is also a way how to address the political and strategic concerns which are involved. Because quite honestly, my cybersecurity specialists do not want to deal with sovereignty issues.
I'm going to just, we've got a few minutes left. I'm going to open it now to the audience. If anyone has a question that they'd like to ask any of our panelists, please go ahead. Lady.
Hi, so I'm actually from Oracle, and we were the first cloud service provider to launch an EU sovereign cloud on the market in 2023. So we do understand the concerns of regulators, of governments, and we have, built a dedicated infrastructure for Europe, so we're listening to the concerns. I have a question on, the relationship between tech, sovereignty, and competitiveness. What do you think is most important, and do you think we can combine both objectives?
Well, I guess that goes to you.
Whatever you want. We're years behind in Europe, if that's what you mean to say. We all understand. That's why I was against the EUCS at that time. I don't want to put ourselves in a disadvantage. I fully see that. But there are, for critical infrastructure and for governments, we should be more concerned about our sovereignty. And I guess the NIS2 is a good example of defining the critical infrastructure and making sure we have a starting point. But I guess the governments would be first movers, first buyers in the new market. But I guess we should scale up a European cloud business with European companies, with European large language model, with European hardware behind, because we can't buy the hardware anymore from NVIDIA. They won't sell it to us. So what choice do we have in Europe? Should we be colonized? Should we say all our large language model, all our AI is going to be American? Do you think that I'm not going to sell that as a politician? I say we take matters in our own hand. And I understand the Secnum Cloud and what you did here, and the European Commission even thrives on Oracle. Those are great solutions. But it has sovereignty thinking in it. And I think that, like Juhan said, we should come up with the Cloud and AI Development Act, which is currently under revision and by the BELIMO. They should come forward with that very soon in order to consult the two co-legislators. And I think that I'm more than open to see that act coming forward.
Thomas, I'd just like to ask you, because you chose to, when they were telling you hire an American CFO, you chose to use European. So what do you think about this conversation? Does it have to be sort of American or Europe? Can we be a little bit more intertwined as we have been?
So, great question. Actually, I think with Europeans, we share very, similar culture, history, and I think it's very important, at least why we decided to do it that way, because we believe that we're closer as people and it's going to be better culture to work us together as a team. But I totally have a bit getting back to the cybersecurity angle that we've just spoke before. Now, with this, before this event, I've asked the team to conduct a research about the state of cybersecurity within the companies. We have a product called NorthStellar.com, which we track the dark web. We see what leaks are happening and what kind of vulnerabilities are one or another company or actually a government is exposed to. So if there is a rating A, B, C, D, F, so only A, B is like very good, D, F very bad. So only 9% of enterprises are in A and B in Europe, and 0% of public governments are in A or B, and everyone's in D and F, because their systems are outdated, vulnerable, exposed, lots of leaks in dark web. So I think, to your point, getting a private, if the CEO or the owner is liable, I think that could really scale up things, because it's still within the cost, it's not somewhere in the top 5 lists of the boards of the companies and governments as well. So that could be really helpful. And I think what's really got especially disconnected, and it's my fault that's I'm first time here in Brussels. I'm not promised to go and be here more often, but it's all about dialogue and now talking, with each other. If we start talking private companies, some public, and see what we can do together, European company, we need to stay together to win this, in my view. And that's how we can build things together and really scale this and, prove the world and show that really good and fast tech can be done here. Yeah. So I think things are moving very, very fast. Believe me, every day there's a new large language model. You get someone in the US, someone in China. There's such a fast race. Is unbelievable. I cannot go on a holiday for 5 days and turn off computer. It's like insane how fast everything is moving. I need to learn every day, and because we're going to be out of date. So I think being closer together, come to Lithuania to visit us if you want. We're really happy to show you around everyone and tell how we work. But I think that dialogue was going to bring us forward, and that's what we need to do together, stick together, and we're gonna win.
Angelika, you have to.
Just on the sovereignty and competitive question from the lady from Oracle, I wanted to come back. I don't think it's a contradiction, honestly. I think we can become more competitive in Europe, but we also have to get more resilient. well, we all know how the world has changed. We all know how geopolitical tensions are there. So I think we Europeans, we have to react, and I think it's a process. And if you allow me, maybe just have a look at the space policy we had. Yeah? In space, we had always been, as regards our access to space, dependent on the rockets coming either from Russia or from the US. So now, we are not there, but we have now a first company. I come from Munich. I'm very proud because the company is situated in Munich, ESA Aerospace. They launched the first rocket in just a couple of weeks ago in Norway. So it's not to compete with the US, with Elon Musk or Russia, but at least we are on our way. And I think this is what we really have to do as Europeans. If we realize how the world has changed, we have to react. And we are building up. We have Galileo, we have Copernicus, we are working on our secured connectivity now with regard to IRIS-2. So a lot of things are happening, and I think that is the way forward. And I do not want to see such a huge, it's not a contradiction. I think it fits quite well together. And looking at the US, I'm so committed to the US, and I'm really sad about what's happening right now. So I really do hope that we will come back where we have a very, very trustworthy partnership with the US as well.
Well, thank you all so much. You heard it here. As Europe, we're on our way. I ask you all to stay in the room as we have a quick stage change, and then you're going to hear from my colleagues Isabella Cantor and Amanda Crayley from the Political Research and Analysis Division, who will present a report titled Under the Sea, Securing Europe's Critical Digital Infrastructure. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you.